Hello, this is Dr. Harriet Fraad, bringing you Capitalism Hits Home, a program about the mutual shaping of political, economic, and personal life. Today, I want to talk about a new development in Marxism and in feminist theory called Social Reproduction Theory. What am I talking about? Certainly isn't known. But if we take Karl Marx's insight that labor, people's work, creates all wealth, well, we can look around and see, our houses were built by labor. Somebody worked to build them. Our sidewalks, our streets, even things in nature like trees, if they're going to be lumber, somebody has to make them into lumber and then make them into our homes through their work. And so nature could provide the raw materials, but it's people's work that makes most of our lives. Even people who lived on meat from hunted animals, somebody had to hunt the animals and trap them and cut them up and cook them to make them into food. Goods and services and commodities have been studied extensively, and work has been studied. But who makes the people who go to work? Who makes the person show up for work? Fed, clothed, with a place to sleep and decent sleep? Who created him in the first place? Who raised him or her? Who brought her up? Who gave her the discipline and education that allowed the work? Those questions have not been asked. And of course they're relevant, because to get to work requires being born, being raised as a child, being somewhat educated, being fed, having some kind of order in which you can live, having some kind of cleanliness so you don't get sick from infection. Who made these lives possible? Who does it? And why wasn't it given any attention before? Because it sure is relevant. None of us would be here without the labor that went into creating our lives. The way that people got away with ignoring that labor is partly through religion, because the original matriarchal religions that worshipped the power of creating people, a power in which women have a dominant role, were matriarchal religions worshipping women's sexual power and worshipping pregnancy and worshipping breastfeeding and all the things that go into maintaining life. Well, patriarchal religion counteracted that, and in order to do so, the basic Bible and Quran have to really demote women. And the religions, all the Abrahamic religions, have to demote women's importance. So, for example, everyone knows that women create babies, women create life. However, in the Bible, Eve was made out of one of Adam's spare ribs. That's a turnaround for creation. And in the Garden of Eden, both Eve and Adam's transgression of wanting knowledge is all blamed on Eve, who is evil, who gave Adam a taste of the apple. Of course, he ate it, he bit it, but she is all to blame. And in pregnancy, when God expels Adam and Eve from the garden, he says explicitly to Eve, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain shall you deliver children. and your desire shall be of thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Well, that was a reversal of the matriarchal religions, which celebrated women's power through childbirth and through creating people and breastfeeding. These are assertions of women's subservience to men and their inferiority. In the Jewish religion, men are to praise God every morning. They have a morning prayer in which they thank God for that they are not women. Not so flattering to women. Capitalist societies show what they value through payment, through money. Put your money where your mouth is. How much are you worth? It's not how much is your human worth that's in that expression. It's you're worthwhile if you have money. Well, women's work of creating life and sustaining life, creating people and the conditions for people to function as well as work, has been unpaid throughout time. How have they gotten away with that? Not recognizing and paying the work that it takes to create us. Well, religion has helped a lot. The previous matriarchal religions that worshipped women, women's sexuality, women's ability to create people, to breastfeed, to create life, those things were worshipped. And when the patriarchal Abrahamic religions, like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam came into being, they had to reverse that by deliberately debasing women in their basic books, the Bible and the Koran. And indeed, they did. In Genesis, both Adam and Eve bite the apple of knowledge, but Eve gets all the blame. They are both expelled from the Garden of Eden because Eve, evil Eve, was curious and bit the apple of knowledge. And in casting them out of paradise, God says to Eve, I will greatly, this is the exact quote, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you shall deliver children, which is certainly a reverse of the worship of women's ability to have children. And your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over thee, asserting male dominance. In the Jewish morning prayer, every morning, the man is to thank God that he was not born a woman. Wow, what does that make women? Far less desirable. The man says, Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who has not created me a woman. These religions helped enforce the inferiority of women, the castigation of women's independent sexuality, and the demotion of their ability to have children as a sexual act, so that the Virgin Mary, who's the only dominant woman in Christianity, has a birth that has nothing to do with her sexuality. She remains a virgin. I remember walking by St. Patrick's at a point where gays were picketing St. Patrick's, and they were draped with condoms, and they were singing Glory to the Newborn King. Mary never felt a thing, asserting that the holy woman is one who had no desire and no sexuality and no enjoyment or power in her sexuality. Well, women's traditional labor of creating life, caring for life, enabling life, has usually been acknowledged and unpaid and ascribed to instinct as if we were animals, when human beings' brains are the size of a small fist like this when we're born and the size of a Nerf football when we die. And that difference in volume is all accounted by neuronal connections precipitated by social life. Humans are social animals, created socially. So the value of social reproduction has been utterly unacknowledged. And now, for the first time that I know of since the matriarchal era, that is being acknowledged in social reproduction theory. It's being addressed very rarely, but it was addressed by Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, who had a program whose key premise was ensuring fairness for women's unacknowledged labor. She gave money to women, paid money for women to pay for family members, care and support workers of all kinds, whether social workers or home health care workers, got a 30% increase in pay. She expanded childcare assistance and paid daycare workers a 30.5% more than they had ever gotten before. She gave people big family tax credits and implemented salaries for all working parents. That is the only government, in my knowledge, that has done that. The Cuban government has acknowledged the importance of care and boosted women's labor without paying for it. Now, there is an unconscious strike by women all over the world against the conditions of our unpaid social reproduction labor. For the first time, women all over the world, except in sub-Saharan Africa, are opting out of marriage. They do it in different ways, and it's not an explicit movement. Women in Senegal are increasingly marrying migrants so they can be sure to be married, which is important in their society, but not have to be doing housework for a man. There's a book that I have here, Opting Out, which affirms that women are withdrawing from marriage throughout the world. And there's another book recently out called Birth Strike about that same phenomenon, but in the United States. So these things are just beginning to be acknowledged. For the first time in American history, the majority of American women are single and by choice. Studies are coming out showing that a woman with one child and a husband and a woman who has no children, just a husband, both do extra hours of work every week. So women are opting out of the extra work of doing social reproduction labor, laundry, cooking, cleaning, emotional care, social care, things that have never been acknowledged, no less paid in our history. Now, the birth rate is going down all over the world except in sub-Saharan Africa. But people are trying, the rulers who are authoritarian and don't recognize women's labor, are trying various things. So, for example, in the US, Vance called women without children dried up old cat ladies and thought that maybe they should be taxed. Trump's transportation secretary, Duffy, announced that new roads will be built based on marriage rates and childbirth rates, even though they may be higher in rural areas that don't need as many roads as urban areas. In Russia, Putin made a law forbidding women to talk negatively about childbirth because their birth rate, like all over the world, is going down. He made it a crime even for women to talk on the radio about some of the trials and tribulations they have raising their children. In New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern offered an incentive to have children by providing childcare, as well as elder care, so that women have more value to their lives, and paying money so that women could do that kind of labor. That's one way of dealing with this. The childbirth rate is going down far less in France than it is, for example, in the United States, because France provides universal, high-quality childcare starting at 3 years old in childcare centers where every center has a fully qualified pediatric nurse, a sick room for if your kids are sick, 3 meals a day, a therapist to work with children who need help, social workers to go out to the families of children who are in trouble, all free. They also have the possibility of childcare from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. And so their child birth rate is not going down quite as precipitously. They also offer universal health care and pediatric care given at schools through high school, as well as free elder care and after-school programs. And what they're doing is acknowledging that the birth strike is because doing the social reproduction of the species is a lot to ask of women without acknowledging or paying them for their labor. In the United States, threats are being used. They're not working. For the first time in our history, not only the majority of women are single, but just about half of American women don't intend to have children. It's too hard to try to make a living, keep the seniority you have, and take time off for childcare, pay the average of $21,200 a year for infant care if you want to keep up with your job full time, keep seniority when you can't do the after school things. If you have children, you have to come home from work to be there for your children. So you can't do that extra networking at the top or going to bars and picking up jobs because they're assigned at the bar after work. Oh, I need a carpenter. Oh, I need somebody who does windows, the kind of things that men discuss at work when they network. Women are on an unannounced birth strike in almost all of the world because it's just too hard to do unacknowledged social reproduction work of creating people and getting them ready for work and lives while you're unacknowledged and unpaid, uncelebrated. And that's something we ought to be aware of so that we can watch while people like Vance are threatening single women or Duffy are threatening communities with lower marriage and childbirth rates, instead of saying, okay, the work that creates people is certainly just as valuable as the work that creates commodities. maybe we ought to start raising the money for the services that are like child rearing, like daycare and after school care and summer care, like cleaning and cooking and creating order and helping the elderly live. These are very important considerations, and they are just now being brought to light because social reproduction theory and social reproduction awareness should be part of every movement to improve life and to acknowledge life and to affirm life. Thank you. Goodbye for now.